This is Copilots, the podcast where we masquerade as an airline and watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just sway your mind.
Okay, Batman. Here we take that chance for you and let you know our opinions on if there's more than just one shot.
Remember that time when everything had a Batman? That was part of the gimmick of the show. Every show had a Batman. I'm the Batman of this show. I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot, Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this week will be Better Off Ted.
I'm not going to say I hated that.
So, we did bullshit because we felt like doing bullshit, but also because this show, despite, in my opinion, being quite entertaining.
Hey, we can't give away our verdict on the show yet.
Fine, because we've never done that before.
We've not done that on most of our episodes.
Yeah. It's a bit weird trying to follow the plot of the show, because things just feel like they happen.
So he's not one of my favorite directors or anything, but I do like a lot of his works. Christopher Nolan has this pretty famous quote where he talks about how movies are dreams more than they are coherent stories. That's why we jump plot to plot in the movie.
Why we can go into an elevator and then be at the top floor of a building, and we don't follow them in the elevator, but when they get they're having a conversation. When they get off there, are in the exact same spot of the conversation.
Yeah, when people walk out of the building having a conversation and then show up where they were going, that a second later in the conversation.
Yeah,
it's because movies follow dream logic, not real world logic.
And television that fits with too. And
this show takes that idea to an extreme. We just go from scene to scene with nary a transition.
Yeah.
And there's no sense of time. Time in this show, time in Better Off Ted doesn't work like time in the real world.
It doesn't, but that doesn't change anything. So, the show opens with a commercial for a company.
Well, before we get into that, I do want to hit on, this is Better Off Ted, you said that.
Yes.
This is episode 1, entitled Pilot.
Yes.
And it first aired in 2009.
True, and we were also asked to review the show by a frequent flyer at a point.
I don't remember if that was Dustin.
It was Dustin.
I was Dustin. Okay. Hi, Dustin. Hopefully you're still listening and don't hate us.
It took us a while, but we had a lot of weird shows we wanted to review. So, it happens.
Also, I kind of lost my original list of, shows. Justice found this on a dusty list somewhere in the attic.
We have attics. Multiples, actually.
On our plane.
Yeah.
Anyways, this show opens with what?
A commercial for the company Viridian Dynamics.
That doesn't sound real.
That's because it's not.
Okay.
It is the company that our main character, Ted, works for.
And he works at R&D there.
He does. He's actually the head of it. But I actually love this commercial opening. It's just talking about things that Viridian Dynamics makes. And 2 times throughout the opening commercial, it's, every day, something we make makes your life better. So they're just going through it, and they show a picture of a cow.
Power. We make that. Technology. We make that.
Cows. We don't make that. But we have made a sheep.
Then they jump through some stuff, and it ends with a encampment being blown up by a missile.
And it repeats the same line of, every day, something we make makes your life better. Usually.
Viridian Dynamics. Live better.
Yeah.
And judging off the second episode, which I'm not reviewing right now, but judging off the second episode, each of these episodes is going to start with a Viridian Dynamics ad. And even if I don't watch all the show, I will at some point...
Watch all the Viridian Dynamic ads?
They're so good. It's like if Aperture Science met The Office.
That is the show overall. Hands down, quick, easy review if you feel like watching the show but don't want to have any of the show spoiled, which it's not really going to spoil the show. I think anything we're going to talk about, it might get rid of a few jokes and a few moments.
I don't know if you can spoil these episodes.
But I think a lot of the jokes that exist in the show are all about delivery, because they're not super side splitters. They're just that was good. And a lot of it seems to be delivery, in my opinion.
It is all delivery, because the line, they hurt the people they love when they're upset, isn't funny out of context.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, simple review. Hopefully it'll pique your interest. Like Josh said, this show is Aperture Science from the Portal games meets the television show The Office.
From the Half-Life games?
Both.
from Black Mesa.
Eh.
Yeah. Aperture Science from Steam's game library.
Are you telling... I mean, like, just from what we know from 2 episodes, Viridian Dynamics, just using it at some point in one of their commercial ads, we do what we must because we can as a fucking line slogan. It fits with this company.
Viridian Dynamics was just...
Think about what they do to Phil. We do what we must because we can.
Viridian Dynamics was just a precursor to Aperture Science. Aperture Science like ended up merging 4 or 5 companies together and becoming Aperture.
I could see it. Okay, so we should probably...
Did we just like make our own canon where where this show is a prequel to Portal?
Yeah. So we should probably actually return to the show and not our weird off-the-cuff fan theories. Even though... Are we fans of this?
I mean, I'm going to watch... I mean, that's a spoiler for our review.
I still don't know, even after having watched. Like, I don't know what I can classify myself as I've only watched 2 episodes.
So...
Like, even if I watch 2 episodes and love it, am I a fan? Or am I just intrigued by it?
Depends on how many episodes it has.
I guess that's a good argument.
Like, if you watch 2 episodes of Star Wars and love them, you're probably a Star Wars fan, but there's only 9 episodes, so...
I feel like that's not so true anymore.
Han Solo doesn't count as an episode, neither does Rogue One.
No, I'm just saying, like, I feel like the statement of watching 2 episodes of Star Wars makes you a fan.
No.
If you like them,
yeah,
doesn't hold so true anymore just because they have new ones.
Because people that
we have, like, 5 new ones.
Anyways, back to this show. This episode is a mess already.
Yeah, that's fine. Time doesn't exist here.
We're just embodying this show.
Yes. So, after the quick advert, we get Ted. He just is telling us about his job.
Talking directly to us. It's not like he's talking aloud to himself. He's actively breaking the 4th wall, looking us in the eye.
Yeah, he's talking to the camera, like they do in The Office, but without the shitty shaky cam. So I appreciate it more already. Fight me, Office fans. I don't like your show.
I think it's time for me to reveal the truth. I've only seen like 2 episodes of The Office ever.
Yeah.
Of the U.S. Office ever.
Yeah.
And I thought they were kind of lame. Not funny.
I'm not going to fight you on that.
No, people are, though.
It's fine.
I did see most of the first...
If they hate us enough, they interact with us, and that's good.
If they hate us too much, they just stop listening altogether.
That's just like indifference.
I did watch most of the first season of the UK Office, though, and it's also not very good. I'm just not a fan of UK humor, though, like, as far as their shows go.
Yeah.
Their comedians are all, like, fucking A tier, though.
Yeah. So, anyways, Chad's telling us about his job. He had just became the head of the R&D for Viridian about a year ago.
A year ago, he says, yes.
And
which, based on this episode, a year is 4 minutes of screen time.
I mean, logically, yeah. So, the entire time he's telling us about his job and a bit about Viridian, it's being interspersed with these points where his boss, Veronica's coming in and telling him what the company wants to have researched and developed.
The first time she comes in, she's like, we want a metal that's as strong as steel, but as bouncy as rubber.
Yeah.
And edible.
It's just like, we can do that.
Then she comes in and she's like, we want a mouse that can survive 193 degrees. And he's like, we can do that. Computer or living? And she has to go,
I'll get back to you on that.
And she leaves. She comes back and she's like, computer mouse. And he's like, that's easier.
And then she comes in and tells them that they want to weaponize pumpkins because one of the countries they do business with has a lot of pumpkins.
Yeah.
And they'd like to make warfare cheaper.
Yeah. From there, we go to the pumpkin meeting.
Yeah. Where it's just all these people sitting in a room and we got one doctor explaining a fungus that destroys pumpkins and talking about weaponizing the fungus that grows on pumpkins.
He already has samples of the pumpkins he's talking about. He already has a presentation, but she just pitched this idea.
Yes.
On screen time like a minute ago.
Yeah.
There's no way he has a presentation fully ready.
Exactly. We're already skipping quite ahead. So everyone in the meeting is just blasé with the fact he's just like, yeah, so then we'll make this into a bioweapon that'll kill soldiers, but giving them like a soft, downy coating. And then they'll die. And
it's not until he says die that they kind of respond. But like,
and even then, the most response we really get is from Ted, and his eyes kind of widen a bit.
No, some woman's like, she gives a gasp. There's a gasp in the room.
Is it Linda? Is Linda in the room?
I don't know. Linda's not in the room.
She seems like the only kind of reasonable person so far throughout the show.
I think she's actually the main character. I think the show is secretly all about Linda.
That or Phil, given the first 2 episodes.
After that, we're introduced to Phil and Lim.
Yes.
Lim first.
We are introduced to them by seeing them use the bathroom.
And Ted's still narrating for us, and he's like, and Lim's sitting there in the bathroom, and he's reaching for some toilet paper.
Like, really reaching. It's really far fucking away.
And Ted's like, he's a genius. No, really, I know, like, he's having trouble getting this toilet paper, but he really is a genius.
And then it's like, and so is Phil. They've been working together, and it cuts over to like the next all over, and
And-
Phil is holding the toilet paper in his hand. He's taken it off the roll and brought it with him.
So we follow those two out of the bathroom, and they're having a conversation about how the company has moved the toilet paper further from the toilets, so
You can't really reach it, so you use less of it.
And while they're having this conversation, Phil is trying to get a drink of water from the water fountain,
Which has a sensor to trigger it at head level, like standing up head level. So he's using his hand to try to swipe it and then lean over to get the water. The water is stopping long before his head gets near it.
It's like on for like half a second. It's like comes on, he goes to bend down and drink it, and it turns off. This is a running theme through not only this episode but a later episode, but the next episode, where this company is super like inventive about how it can be cheap.
Yes, it is. So Lim and Phil, we continue to follow, and they go off into their lab. And Lim's just talking about how it's not fair. Phil's just like, just take the toilet paper roll with you. You'll get used to it. That'll become normal. And Lim's talking about how it's not fair. He's a fighter. Like the thing with a sandwich a week ago. He could have fought that.
If he had wanted to, he would have fought that.
Yeah.
If he thought he could win, he would have fought that.
And he knows he could win, so he should have fought that. Why didn't he fight that? And then we have Ted come into the lab, and he's just like, still talking about the sandwich thing. Lim's like, I could have won that. And Ted's like, your mom's a tough lady.
You instinctively knew you couldn't win that. That's why you didn't fight.
Yeah, so we know that Lim's mother still makes him food for work from the way they talk about it in the conversation. And Lim just mentions offhandedly that his mother has apparently just killed a bat with a People's Magazine once.
I mean, they play it off as like that's really hard to do, but like if you bundle a magazine really tight, that's a pretty good bat.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's weird, but I don't think it's hard. I understand you used the fact that the People's Magazine becomes like a bat, and then you used to kill a bat.
I mean, I didn't mean
You
to
didn't
make that
realize
joke.
it on purpose, but then you did.
I didn't intend to make that joke. But yeah, it makes a really solid weapon, like to smack something with. But like if it's flying and you smack it, you got its momentum coming towards you, and then the swing momentum, and you hit it in the wing or the head.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that I don't think it's that tough to kill a bat with a magazine.
Yeah. So we're basically just done with Lim and Phil for the moment. After that, we just get introduced to them, and then we have Ted walking back through the office areas when Veronica shows up with.
She says, the drones who are working on the spy drones came up with this fabric, and they don't have any use for it. Find something to do with it.
And Ted looked and he's like, durable, has a nice texture.
Nice coloration.
Nice coloration. This should be a good breakfast food.
You know, breakfast. He's like, I think we can use this for a breakfast meal. And she like freaks out. She's like, really?
You know, we've been wanting to get into that market. And she's like, no, you have to learn to take a joke. She's like, I'm relaxed. I can joke. Maybe me not knowing was me pretending not to know that was a joke.
So I made this comment while we were watching the episode. But for the audience at home, there's a web series called Conversations with My 2-Year-Old Daughter.
It's amazing.
And later Conversations with My 3-Year-Old Daughter.
It's also amazing because it's the same thing.
Later Conversations with My 4-Year-Old Daughter. And by that point, the daughter's got enough reasoning skills that the show's kind of went downhill. But the way Veronica talks just reminds me of like the recreation of the Conversations with his daughter in that series. You should go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's free. Go watch it.
Do it. Also, back to this show. So we see Ted just throw the material at Lim and Phil and tell them to make a chair.
This actually happens after. The scene with Veronica happens before we ever go to Ted in the lab.
Does it?
Yeah, because he's like...
Okay, so he shows up in the lab with the material.
Yeah, because Lim is like...
I don't remember when he shows up in the lab and not, because it doesn't, like, the time is weird.
Part of the conversation is, he's like, yeah, your mom's tough, but she can't make something out of nothing. Like you can. Now make me something out of this.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And so they make an office chair.
And then we see them testing the office chair.
Because Because Linda does testing. This is our first actual introduction to Linda.
She has been working there for 6 months.
Yeah.
And this also makes us question, again, the time. Because the turnaround on this chair is almost immediate.
She hasn't been working there 6 months yet. We get the 6 months later when he's presenting her data from the testing.
Yes.
Which has been at least a couple weeks because that's how testing works.
But immediately they have like minimum of 8 chairs because it's just like this area in the office where everyone's using these chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And these chairs are itchy and uncomfortable and they are driving people fucking crazy.
And she's like, they can't sit still. They don't want to touch the fabric at all. And he's like, or maybe the reason they're rubbing their body against it is because they want their entire body to feel the amazing fabric.
Yes.
And she's like, I know you're an R&D legend and you have R&D magic, But no, you're wrong. And then we cut to a scene to him walking down the hall with a file folder, and he's talking about, I always say you can't give up. I always tell my daughter, you can't give up. And she always tells me to stop telling her that she can't give up. But I tell her I can't, because that would be giving up.
Yes.
And like the whole little spill there about telling his daughter that you can't ever give up is about Linda having told him these chairs will never work. And he has this information from the testing.
Yeah, he has this nice manila folder with results. And
he hands it to Linda. Well, we enter Linda's cubicle, and he doesn't hand it to Linda right away because Linda's on the phone.
Yes. She is talking, and she's just like, and then the toaster and the zebra just run off. No, don't have the toaster do that. Then he sounds like a sociopath. He's not mean. He just doesn't want to make toast anymore.
Turns out Linda's trying to write a children's book, and her illustrator doesn't understand it at all.
Yeah. So Ted like mockingly jokes about it, and she's just like, exactly, you get the toaster entirely, because he makes a joke about
you get the toaster and his dynamic relationship with the power socket so well, and he's like, and then Ted's like, yeah, because the power socket holds all the power.
Yeah, because he was making a joke about how the toaster's trying to run away with having
the outlet
legs
holds all the power
and needing to be plugged into an outlet.
Yeah, but then he hands her the results, and he's like, look, when they're using this chair, they're all more efficient. Their productivity goes up.
Yes, it was like what, a 20%?
I don't remember if they give us an exact percentage.
I think they do. It's a pretty good increase.
What I do know is that they then are over back in the testing area with the chairs, and the people are all squirming still. And he's like, "See, when you can't sit still, you can't get bored enough to daydream or."
Yeah, you just try to get done with your work as fast as possible. And then one of the guys stands up screaming, "I can't take this anymore!"
Well, no, like before that, he goes, "In fact, the scratchier the better." And then we see Lim and Phil in the office testing a new version of the fabric.
Yeah, it's very brief. Right about it.
Phil runs his hand across it, pulls his hand back like it cut him, and they're examining it under a magnifying glass to see how abrasive it was. And they roll out a new line of chairs for the office people to test.
Yeah, it's a chair. They have a ribbon on it, and we see a plaque that says...
You're skipping more, because I'm still talking about the testing phase. They rolled this new chair...
I don't know.
with the abrasive fabric.
The time of this show is weird.
With the abrasive fabric, and Ted's like, see? The more uncomfortable it is, the more the production goes up. And then the guy stands up and goes, I can't take it anymore. Get this off of me.
He runs screaming, like scratching at his skin towards the elevator.
And Ted's like, until they go insane. So they tone it back down to a...
We also have Linda's cutting remark about how it just makes them hate everything.
Yeah.
More.
See, they're more productive. And they hate more.
And then the guy snaps.
Yeah,
right after she says that, yeah.
And then we cut to them rolling out the, like, congratulations. There's a cake, and they've...
A chair with a red ribbon and a plaque.
They've reduced the scratchiness of the fabric to an acceptable level, and it's called the Taskmaster chair.
Yep.
And they've pre-sold 1 million of these, and they're rolling this out, like, for production now.
You know what's sad?
Which means...
You know what's actually sad?
What's that?
How many companies I can see actually buying those in real life because they do shit like that to make their employees uncomfortable? Like the fucking toilets that exist at a fucking incline that are actually bad for your back and posture. That way you don't like waste time in a bathroom.
So I don't check my Twitter and my poop breaks?
Yes, basically. Those are toilets that exist that companies will fucking buy, and it's just like...
I'll just reverse cowboy that and sit facing the wall, like hold the metal bar like of the toilet.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, worst comes to worst, fuck you. I'll still be in the stall. I'm just gonna fucking stand here.
You think your slanted toilets could stop my Twitter breaks?
Yeah, no, like the amount of people, the fact that they could do that makes sense. And that's the part that hurts me the most.
So the really important thing here is this episode is only about half over.
Yes.
And we went from here's this fabric, turn it into a product, to rolling out a fully like fledged chair for production with 1 million pre-sales. That doesn't happen in a week.
No, hell no.
That doesn't happen in a month.
Also, I realized something I forgot to mention. Linda's not introduced right with the chair testing. She's introduced stealing creamer.
Oh, yeah.
That's not super important. Linda just steals creamer from the company because she hates them.
Because that's something we missed earlier. When she's on the phone with her illustrator, when she gets off the phone and she's talking to Ted about the Taskmaster chair and how being uncomfortable makes people more productive, she's like, did you know the company sends you phone bills for the non-work related calls you make? Not that they charge you for them.
They just want you to know that they know when you're not making work-related calls. Can a company be bitchy?
Ted doesn't reply to that, but the answer is yes. Companies can be bitchy, just like people.
Yeah.
Anything made of people can have the attributes of people, including Jeffrey Dahmer's furniture.
I was going to say Mrs. Lovett's meat pies.
You went with a fictional serial killer, and I went with a real one.
Yeah.
So that's the first half of this episode. Next, we cut back to Ted in his office,
And Veronica comes in.
and she says, "Your department has a creamer problem."
Yeah.
Ted's like, "Is that an issue?" And she's like, "Not a Katrina level issue, because this is a couple years after Hurricane Katrina, and that was actually like an understandable reference. In 2020, there are people that are not going to understand that reference."
Which is sad.
Is it? That Katrina was like 2005. That was 15 years ago.
Oh, fuck.
I was like in 5th grade, I think.
I shouldn't feel old.
I was in 5th grade because we had a sock hop for Katrina, like donating fundraiser relief for it.
Yeah, I definitely shouldn't feel old by that, but I do. Okay, so then Phil comes in.
That sock hop was lit because we got out of like the back half of the day and we just had to pay to go.
Okay, then Phil comes in.
And Veronica's like,
Phil, just the person I wanted to talk about.
"Phil, you're the reason why I was here. I'm
Yeah,
here."
you're the reason why I'm here.
And he's like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so he was trying to say something to Ted. And he's like, "Oh." And he tries to engage Veronica in conversation. She's like, "Go." And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "I want to talk about you, not to you."
And so he leaves, and Veronica tells Ted that the company wants to freeze Phil.
Just before, like, everything before she tells Ted that the company wants to freeze Phil sounds so much like conversations with my 2-year-old daughter.
Yes, it does. But then she tells Ted the company wants to freeze Phil. And Ted's just like, why do you want to freeze Phil? Well, we've had some success with animals, and we want to see if we can freeze a person. Originally, they suggested Lim, but the company knows not to freeze the black guy.
Yep, that's pretty much the scene.
And Ted learns that he's the one who has to tell Phil that the company wants to freeze him.
Yep, and he's like, "Phil doesn't like cold or small spaces. This seems like a bad idea. He's not your guy for this."
It's a hard sell.
But then he pitches it to Phil.
And he pitches it to Phil by telling Phil that he'll be a
Pioneer.
Yeah, a pioneer. He'll be leading on this frontier. He'll go somewhere when everyone else has ever gone before and come back. So he sells Phil on this idea. Phil's just like, "I'll have to talk to my wife first, but okay."
So I don't want to like misrepresent facts here, but I know there's a case where a child fell into a pond in very cold conditions and was underwater for several, like, I want to say almost an hour, like, and was clinically dead.
Shrug.
And they managed to bring the kid back with minimal brain damage.
I have no idea.
I can find that article somewhere and link it. So technically he's not going to a new frontier. A child beat him to it by accident.
True. So then we see Ted talking to his daughter, and his daughter's just like, "That doesn't seem... So you're going to have Phil be frozen. You're going to have him do something you wouldn't do?
But I like Phil.
He came to my birthday party."
Maybe you'll like Phil better when he's frozen.
And she's like, "I like Phil at his current temperature.
Oh, it's so good.
What you're doing is wrong." And then Ted's just like, "Fuck. Of course you know it's wrong, because I had to teach you it was wrong."
I had to teach you right from wrong. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
And so we immediately cut back to, I guess, a different day at work.
Yes.
Because again, there's no way to tell time in the show.
And Ted is now trying to talk Phil out of being frozen, because Phil is fine with it. And his wife, who is a mean, spiteful, rude lady, is surprisingly excited about it.
Yeah, I think she just looks at it as a year with no Phil.
Also, a thing we forgot to mention, when Phil's originally talking to Ted, he's just like, "Am I still going to be paid?" And Ted's like, "It's work. Sure. I think. Maybe. I'll have to ask." So in their conversation now, when Ted's trying to convince Phil he doesn't have to, he makes the fun statement of, "The company can't make you participate in a human experiment. They lost that court case. This company has tried to force their employees into human experimentation to a degree where someone took them to fucking court over it."
Viridian Dynamics is literally just the precursor to Aperture Science.
They are, and I love it.
At some point, Aperture is just like, "You know that lawsuit Viridian lost?
I think we could win it.
I don't think they said, "I think we can win it." I think they went, "Viridian lost that."
As long as our employees don't say anything about it, we're fine. I really, really wish I could do a J.K. Simmons impression.
I think that's closer to what happened. But anyways, they convinced Phil to get frozen.
Him and Lim aren't happy with each other. Lim is unhappy that his lab partner, friend, best friend is going to be frozen, and Phil just thinks Slim is mean.
I mean, to be fair, Phil is a little mean.
Yes, there's a great moment where Lim's just like, why are you being so mean? And he delivers it perfectly. And at that point, it's actually just a good question.
The delivery there is so great. It's probably one of the best delivered lines in this entire episode.
Yeah. So then we kind of just cut to Phil being frozen.
Yep. And they mentioned that his eyes might explode when they get down to negative 20 degrees, which prompted me to question, negative 20 degrees what? Because Celsius and Fahrenheit, those are both very livable temperatures.
Yes. And if we're talking negative 20 degrees core temperature of his body, his eyes should freeze before negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Because they're water, basically.
Mostly liquid, yeah.
They're saline water, but a saline water would still freeze before negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, would it not?
I would assume so.
Yeah, like
that's 50 degrees below freezing, and it's negative 28 degrees below freezing for Celsius.
You know,
I'm going to explain the rest of the scene. So Veronica nopes out when somebody mentions that his eyes might explode. She's like, not for me. And
no. She nopes out after the pumpkin scientist we see, the one who's weaponizing pumpkins, talks about how he has seen a rabbit, an eel, an elk, and some other animals all explode from the inside,
but never a human. Yeah. So she nopes out, and then Linda is just talking to Ted, and she's like, this is completely normal, right? Normal companies freeze their employees. This happens everywhere. And Ted's just kind of nodding along. So they get to the negative 20 degrees, and this is actually a really good physical humor moment. Like, everybody immediately looks away from Phil and the cryo chamber when it hits negative 20, except for the pumpkin guy. He's like looking on excitedly, and then nothing happens, so they all look back at the tank, and it successfully reaches full cryo, and Phil is now frozen. Now, while this all happens, during the tense moment of not looking at the cryo tank, Phil and Linda somehow grab each other's hands and are holding hands now.
Yes.
They notice this, and they separate their hands and give each other kind of a look. I'm going to need justice after that, because I kind of forget where this goes after that, because this show does not follow timeline.
Then it's just the elevator conversation about how he's already had his one office affair, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which, when he makes the statement, Josh and I both thought, this is just a rule of Viridian Dynamics. Everyone gets one office affair.
It had to be a rule. Like, the way he just said it, he's like...
He just says it so matter-of-fact and straight up, I've already had my one office affair. And she doesn't question that as a statement.
And he had his one office affair with Veronica.
So he kind of just details that. And it's this fun moment where Veronica's like flirting with him. She's just like...
In the flashback, yeah.
I'm so vulnerable.
No, the best is, she's like, I want to have sex with you. And he's like, okay. And she's like, can't you see? I'm trembling. And he's like, no, you're not.
And she's like, yeah, I guess I'm not. I have a hard time opening up to people and showing how I really am. I guess that makes me vulnerable. No, he doesn't. Oh, well, what does that leave us? And then he just shows them afterwards laying on his desk, both exhausted and out of breath. And she's like, okay, we're good. I'm done here.
But yeah, so in the elevator, Linda looks at Phil. She's like, yeah, that's okay. And the elevator doors slide open, and it's Veronica. And she's like, who would have an affair with their boss anyways?
That's stupid.
And obviously, Veronica knows what they're talking about because she was the one that he had an affair with, and she's his boss.
Yes.
And so this creates a dynamic between Linda and Veronica.
After this scene, then, we see Ted in the lab talking about how the company's agreed to let Phil stay in the lab with his friends.
Yep. And
then Veronica shows up, and we're getting this view from inside Phil's cryogenic chamber. She's like, that's creepy. We're moving him to the basement tomorrow.
Oh, we're moving him tomorrow. And Dad's like, where are we moving him to?
The basement. But I've also heard talk about India.
This show just... It doesn't...
So this man who's been frozen for, just given the weird times, been maybe a week at most, I'd say.
It's been 3 days. Ted says that.
Okay, we actually have days. It's been 3 days. 3 days he stayed in his lab when this company has promised to leave him in there. But so they're talking about that, and we just kind of cut to two maintenance men, just general maintenance men, walk into this lab.
They have no idea what they're doing.
With just a trolley to put it on. Not keeping in mind that it's attached to so many other things on a raised platform as well. So they're just leaning it over.
A raised platform with stairs. There's no ramp.
So they're leaning it over.
And one of the guys gets a phone call.
And he takes it. And the other guy's like, what the fuck? He drops Phil's chamber.
Bounces down the stair.
Detaches from whatever freezing unit they're using. And he thaws out.
And then we cut to Ted talking to his daughter, whose name is Rose. We didn't mention that earlier.
Yes.
And she's like, he thawed out. How'd that happen? And Ted's like, very technical process.
Yes. Is everything good? Yeah. Except for maybe one little thing.
And then we cut to a meeting.
Yes, where Phil is just talking about some sciencey stuff.
And then he just starts doing... That was such a spot-on rendition.
I lost it towards the end, but it was good at first.
It was so good.
And apparently, he just does that now sometimes.
And he doesn't remember when he does it, and he doesn't have control over when it happens.
It just happened.
And so Linda and Ted have a conversation. Linda's like, yeah, we're firing him. By we're firing him, you're firing him.
And Ted's just like, what? But Phil, let us freeze him.
And so we then cut to a scene where Veronica approaches Linda and surprises Linda. She's at the copy machine.
Oh, yeah.
And Veronica's like, There's a tiny scene before this, after Veronica asks Phil,
Veronica's just talking to Ted, and she's like, you shouldn't hook up with Linda.
You can't sleep with Linda.
That would look bad for me. Also, I might not be done with you. And
then she approaches Linda, and she says Linda's name, and Linda jumps, and she's like, what?
I know a lot about you.
Why are you so jumpy? I'm friendly. This is me being friendly. Yeah. And Linda's like, I just didn't think you knew my name.
Yeah, and Veronica goes, I know a lot about you, Linda. Zwarding Lean.
And she's like, it's Zwardingling.
Oh, look at me. Oh, look at you. You know your name better than I do.
And then she just walks off.
Yes.
Oh, look at you. You know your name better than I do.
Yeah.
Then we cut again. Ted and Veronica are in an elevator again. Yeah. And Ted's just like, I don't think we should make any decisive plans to fire Phil. It's a little too early to tell. We should hold off on making any decisions. Yeah. And she's like, you're right. We should wait.
We should wait until Friday.
Makes it easier for payroll.
Yes.
So then we cut to Ted at home with his daughter again.
Yeah.
Because again.
It's just like, you're going to fire Phil? Do adults not even care about what's right?
And Ted's like, if you brush your teeth, he's tucking her into bed.
And she's like, don't change the subject.
And then we cut back to the next day.
And it's again Ted and Veronica walking off an elevator and through the hallway.
Mm-hmm. And they're having a conversation. And then they see Phil.
And he's like, hey, guys.
And she's like, oh, hey, you seem to be blinking better now. And then she turns to Ted and she's like, why is he still here?
And Ted's talking about how he's such a great scientist. And as he's doing that, Phil just goes, Gah! And he's like, you're not helping my situation. And Phil just stops. Like the only time.
No, like he yells dude at.
Yeah, he yells, dude, you're not helping. And Phil just stops.
Yeah, like outside stimuli can snap him out of it.
Yes.
We learned that in the next episode.
And then he tells Veronica that he's not firing Phil.
She's like, but they want you to.
I'm not firing Phil. They're not going to like that.
That's going to upset them. And they hurt the people they love when they're upset, Ted.
Well, then maybe...
and they love you.
Well, then maybe I should talk to them.
No, they're not going to want to talk to you when you're like this.
Yeah, and then she just walks off.
And the episode ends. That's the end of the first episode. We took 40 minutes to talk about this 22-minute episode.
We did not take 40 minutes to talk about this 22-minute episode. We took 40 minutes to talk about a bunch... We took like 20 minutes to talk about a bunch of other shit, and like maybe 20 minutes to talk about this.
I don't know. We've been talking about this episode for at least 30 minutes. It's insane.
We diverted a fuck ton.
Anyways, what do you think of this first episode?
I just love the way every fucking line in this show is delivered. By the end of episode 1, I'm going to say, yeah, fucking watch more of this show. It is Aperture Science meets The Office, except without all the boring shit of The Office and just with all the great things of Aperture Science.
Minus the portal guns, moon dust, robots, J.K. Simmons.
No. I said all the
Wheatley
good things.
Core.
All the great things about Aperture Science, the company, not Portals, the game.
Those are all part of Aperture Science.
Yeah, but the portals aren't really like much of Aperture Science anymore because Aperture Science is kind of just gone by that point.
GLaDOS.
It is a building. I highly doubt the company actually exists as an LLC anymore.
That's fair.
It's probably a deteriorating building state that GLaDOS
I mean, J.K. Simmons definitely was part of Aperture Science.
Yeah.
Well, Cave Johnson was.
Yeah.
They also invented the GLaDOS, the GLAD operating system.
They did. So what do you think at the end of this episode?
I mean, I like it. It's funny. It might be one of the funniest things we've ever reviewed, counting ghost stories in there. So they're both similar in this regard. Every scene is a joke.
Yeah, basically.
Everything that happens in this show is a joke. A lot of it's deadpan delivery that's not like a joke within the context of the show. This one's a lot like
drier delivery and drier humor. And Ghost Stories has a lot more erratic, random humor. But they both are kind of set up that way. And they're both really funny, but for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. I would watch more of this. I'm going to watch more of this at some point. And even if I don't watch the entire series, all 26 episodes, I will watch all of the Viridian commercials.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we're going to go watch episode 2, and we'll be right back with a review for that one.
We've already watched all of this show, but it's weird trying to take notes on it. So we're trying a new thing where we watch the episode, talk about the episode.
Yeah, this show doesn't take notes well.
It doesn't.
Anyways, we'll be back. See you in like 3 seconds. And that was episode 2. Thank you for joining us. This has been Copilots Review.
No. We just finished watching episode 2 again. We haven't talked about it yet.
Oh.
Yeah. Episode 2 was entitled Heroes.
Why would you take that from me?
Because you fucked it up. It's mine for the grabs.
Okay, so this episode starts off with Phil and Veronica talking.
No. It starts off with a Viridian Dynamics advert.
I mean, all episodes start off with that.
Yes.
As far
and
as
this one is talking about food and food-like products.
Viridian Dynamics is the leader in developing food and food-like products for the next generation.
Like tomatoes, the size of this baby. It says as a baby crawls across the screen. Apparently they're making a fish that tastes like a lemon, and they can make turnip, or is it radishes?
It's radishes.
Radishes, so spicy that humans can't eat them.
But they don't.
But they can. Food, yum.
But also, that's not true. You can't make something so spicy humans can't eat it.
Yeah, they'll still fucking try. We're stupid.
Yeah, we are.
So then you can get to how you thought the show started.
No, I just skipped the ad. That's all I did.
I don't know why you would. It's great.
The ad's the best part. We've already mentioned that like twice, 3 times, 4 times now. So then the episode opens on Veronica and Ted outside of Ted's office.
Yes.
Talking. And Veronica asks him...
She just makes like generic talk because she wants to try small talk. And then she's like, oh my god, stop. It feels like I've pissed away my entire day.
And then she's like, so our... What is it called?
We need a new food product. The extra fun mac and cheese didn't work out. Extra fun mac and cheese seems to cause blindness if eaten more than twice a week. Plus, no matter how long it cooks, it never gets warm. And then Ted's like, maybe it's not mac and cheese.
This is her best line in the entire episode.
No. It has to be. The box has already been made.
It's the best line in the entire... Her best line in the entire episode. No. It has to be. The box is already done.
Yeah.
And so Ted's tasked with finding a new food product for Friday's presentation.
Yeah. And apparently they've been working on making beef from a lab culture without having to use an actual cow. So she wants them to do that.
Well, that's what they decided to do because that's the only project they have that's even close to done.
And food related.
Yeah. So Phil and Lynn are the people in charge of this project, and they end up presenting it to a group meeting. So
yes. Which, just before the group meeting, it's just like Linda in a bathroom talking about how Linda hates working here and just hates the company, kind of.
And she's trying to dry her hands, but every time she swipes her hands in front of this towel dispenser...
It really feels like, maybe an inch of towel?
No, an inch of towel's like that.
Like half an inch of towel?
I think you're still overestimating it. We're talking like centimeter.
I mean...
There's 2.54 of those bros in an inch, and like...
Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds right, you're right.
It's so tiny.
And the name of their towel dispenser is Viridian Dynamics Towelmizer.
Yep. And we cut to the meeting where they're talking about the cowless beef.
Yes. And Phil...
scientifically.
Lim explains this very scientifically, sorry. And Phil's just like, beef without a cow. And Lim's like, that's what I said. And Phil's like, I was just saying it more plain.
I was just explaining it. And he's like, no, you were just repeating me.
Yeah. So then they're arguing a bit, and then Phil starts doing his screaming stuff. I'm not doing it this time.
Oh.
You can't make me.
And
I'm not going to keep doing that to the fucking listeners. That's rude.
And then Phil starts to do his screamy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I thought if I said it, you might do it.
No. And so Veronica pulls out a water bottle down from her side and squirts him in the face.
Not a water bottle. Like, when you say water bottle, I'm thinking like
a water squirt bottle. Like a spray bottle filled with water like you might for like an animal.
Like you might keep cats off of stuff that they shouldn't be on.
And sprays him in the face. So he snaps at him. He's like, why is my face wet?
Well, first he's like, did I do it again? And Lim's like, yes, it seems you're getting louder. And he's like, why am I wet?
And Veronica tells him, maybe you urinated.
On my face?
As she gives like a sort of like from the chest, like shrug with your hands. Like
yeah. And then Linda walks in. She's late for the meeting. She's saying she's sorry for being late.
She spent 20 minutes trying to dry her hands.
Which...
that tracks.
Fair. I mean, it might save the company on paper towels, but it's definitely not saving them on...
I think the companies encourage you to like dry your hands in your clothing.
Or bring your own towel to work. They're like, fuck it. Bring hand towels.
Bring your towel to work day. It's every fucking day. Bring your own towels.
And Ted's like, it's okay. We were just talking about making cowless beef.
In a lab. And she's like, that's disturbing and creepy.
And everybody stares at her because...
yeah, and she's like, oh, wait. we're doing that.
And that's the end of this scene.
Yeah. We get more of Ted and Linda just kind of like lingering afterwards to stare at each other.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really do anything from there.
From here, we go to the coffee break, right?
No, I believe we get why Legal.
Oh yeah, Ted and Veronica talking to.
Yeah, because Legal has a few theories. At this point, Ted's not talking to Veronica yet. It's just one of his voiceovers. He's like,
"Yep."
Legal has a few theories as to why Phil might be doing that, his screaming thing. One is that he was traumatized by a burn-in from a chicken pot pie, and it shows him in like the break room pulling a chicken pot pie out, or from an old football injury, and it's him in the lab with goggles down over his eyes, and him and Lim are playing table football with a piece of paper, and it like hits just above his eyebrow.
And then Ted's like, but I think it's probably because we cryogenically froze him for 3 days and then unfroze him without meaning to.
Yeah. And then we go to Veronica and Ted talking.
In the break room, right?
Yeah, sorry, it's Ted and Linda talking in the break room.
Ted and
then
Linda.
Veronica will come up.
Yeah.
Ted and Linda are just talking. It's once again about the fact that she steals creamer. And he's just like, why are you taking creamer this time? She's like, I spent 20 minutes trying to dry my hands. I'm going to take 20 minutes worth of creamer. How much creamer is that? It's an infinite amount. So just a fun fact for anyone out there. So apparently, creamer, in an equivalent in a format of time, 20 minutes of time transferred to the creamer, to like changing the base of time to creamer, if we were doing a...
So if we measure time in base creamer.
Yes, if we measure time in base creamer, 20 minutes of time is equivalent to infinity over creamer. So if we set that up as a proportion, it's 20 over time. And we have infinite over creamer.
I do wonder when you hit that, like, is 19 creamer? I mean, is 19 minutes of time still infinite creamer? When do we cross the threshold?
I don't know, but we do know that 20 minutes. And we're not even sure if it's like an equal basis. Maybe 21 minutes is not equal to infinite creamer.
I don't know how that would work.
We don't know how time exactly changes over into creamer. But
we don't know how time works in the show.
Yeah, but we do know 20 minutes is equivalent to infinite creamer.
And then Linda comes in. Well, sorry. Linda and Ted are talking about how Linda still wants to fuck Ted.
Yeah, because what it comes down to basically is she's explaining this is the only way to help keep her sane, and you don't want to see her when she's not sane. And he's like, yeah, this is your sane. She's like, it could be worse. Like, what if I don't have the creamer? And they're talking about their fair thing. She's like, I don't know, I think it's stupid that you only have the one fair rule thing, and I think you using it so stupidly is bad.
And Ted replies something along the lines of, I don't know, but somehow you just managed to call me stupid twice in one sentence.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, but Veronica, and Veronica's walking up.
And he's like going to explain that like he doesn't actually care about Veronica or whatever, and then Veronica's there.
Yeah.
So she kind of sends Linda away.
And Veronica's like...
Linda's like, I have to go to work. She doesn't want to be around.
Yeah. And Veronica's like, why is there never any creamer? And Ted answers her.
Ants. No. Ghosts. No, I don't know. Which, that's going to be my new go-to response when I don't know something, and someone asks me a question. I think it's going to work.
I don't know if that's a good answer, but sure.
It is. It is a good answer. So then Veronica explains to Ted that she can't really have him working on the meat project because legal doesn't want Phil...
Can't have Phil working on the meat project.
Yeah. They can't really have Phil working on anything, and they don't want him working on anything until they know he's not going to sue because they froze him. And I don't remember if it's here or if it's later. It doesn't particularly matter because time is a weird thing. They do present another theory that legal has as to why Phil might be screaming, and it's that he recently did a magic trick that's had these weird results.
Oh, they don't present this theory. Veronica like specifically tells Ted this theory.
Oh yeah.
And then Ted's like, yeah, a magic trick where the company he works for cryogenically froze him for 3 days.
And then thawed him out on accident. So...
yeah, that magic trick.
They decide the easiest way to... well, Ted presents the easiest way to prevent Phil from suing is just to make him feel like a valued member of the team. So we then immediately cut downstairs. Like, everyone is assembled. It is an immediate cut again.
Not everyone. Only the higher-ups.
Yeah, I wasn't...
yeah.
Everyone is assembled in the executive lunchroom that is allowed there. So the executive. I realized I was phrasing it weird, but my mind I was like already going in that form.
Yeah, I was like, not everybody's there because that...
So they present him with this golden flask with
the Trailblazer Award.
Yes, it's a golden flask with a
beaker?
test tube above it.
Pouring into the flask.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made of rubber.
Yeah, it looks like it's made of rubber. Like,
no, it's made of rubber. We see it like flex later.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a poor attachment.
No, it flexes.
But it bounces up and down.
Boop, boop, boop,
yeah.
Boop, boop, boop.
So Phil goes to give a speech, and he's like, cryonics. You can't spell the first part without cry, so, you know...
it has to be good.
Yeah, and he doesn't know anywhere to go. And then he starts doing his scream again.
Yeah, he just erupts into a scream.
And the executive look like they have no idea what the fuck's going on because he's just going,
Yes.
So, Veronica's like, she compares it to the screech of an eagle and its bravery, and
he's a hero.
and she starts clapping and tells them they should all clap, and then
She doesn't tell them. She just like looks at them until they do.
yeah, so everyone claps, and she also says that he has access to the executive lunchroom as much as he wants
For a week.
which
Yep.
she has that part under her breath.
Yep. And then we cut back down to the lab,
Yes,
and Phil is talking about the award ceremony again.
he is surrounded by other.
We know it's again because Liv is like, oh yes, tell this story again.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
Talk about the tables and
Phil
how they had
have
legs to hold them up.
Phil is surrounded by other scientists, and one of them she's like, "Do the eagle screech."
He's like, I can't just do it on command.
It has to
Ease its way out of me.
And then Lim's
Like defecation, except out of his mouth and louder.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Phil is then tells Lim that he's better than him, basically,
Yeah,
and that he's just gonna get used to it.
Phil and them get in a fight. And then we cut to Linda and Ted heading to the food testing area.
Yes.
Where
Where
there's-
their only meaningful interaction outside of that is Ted telling her to stop stealing creamer again.
Because she's going to get caught. And if she gets caught, she's going to get fired.
And if she's fired, she's not there.
Yeah.
That's like legitimately something he says.
Which to Linda is probably a good thing because now she can hook up with Ted.
Yep.
Because it's no longer an office affair.
So we walk into a small room where there is Jerome, the taste tester, who is back. He's no longer blinded. They just had to scrape some extra fun off his optic nerve. Yeah. And it is like a small interrogation room. It is like cinder blocks, metal table,
And
a light.
the food just appears out of a chute in the wall.
Yeah, it looks like it's on like a conveyor belt that goes directly to the wall, and there's a small little plexiglass door for it.
Yep. And they give him the food, and he takes a bite of it, and he's like, this tastes familiar.
Like beef?
No.
Like chicken? We can settle for chicken.
Mm-mm. Despair.
Are you sure it doesn't just need a little salt?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So then they leave the room.
And Ted's like, don't worry, as long as Lim and Phil are working together, they can solve this.
Yeah.
And then Lim's out in the hallway.
Oh, yeah. We did talk about it earlier when he was talking about why she needs Phil on the team. Why Veronica needs Phil. I think it could fit here.
Oh.
Because it's not a problem with Lim and Phil, because Lim and Phil have made some great progresses. They've 100% mastered
Retinal
scanning. They made the newest version of pepper spray.
And they're the best dancers in the company.
Yes. So when they walk out, we see Lim. And he's just like, Ted, I don't think I can work with Phil anymore.
And we cut to what should be a commercial, but then we open back up with Ted in Veronica's office. And he's like, we've created a monster down in the lab.
And Veronica's like, no, it's not a monster. It's a cyborg. It's a cyborg assassin.
It kills on command. And
I was talking about Phil. What were you talking about?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
I was also talking about Phil.
Yeah, they mentioned the cyborg again here because then she's like,
Yeah, but she says I was also talking about Phil.
She also mentions like, if only we could make it kill the targets we want it to, and not just
it'll be a really
mindless
nice,
killing
effective
machine.
tool when we can get it to stop killing everything in front of it. When it can tell the difference between a kid and a soldier.
Yeah, and so he explains to her about Phil becoming an egotistic monster.
And she stands up and she's like, I can handle it. She's like, don't hurt him.
And then we cut to Veronica and Phil down in we cut to Phil surrounded by a bunch of executives in the executive
Who have
lunchroom.
apparently easily embraced this man. They're all actively looking at him with rapt attention while he's talking. We don't actually hear what they're talking about.
And then Veronica shows up and she just shoots off all the executives. She's like, no, go away. Which also implies she's not just Ted's boss, but she's actually like
a boss. Which, does make sense given the fact that he is the head of an entire department, an important department like research and development, and she is his boss.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it does make me question why she spends so much fucking time on his floor.
Yeah, well, it's because he's on his floor. And she made it clear that she wasn't done with him earlier.
Maybe. She's not sure.
Yeah, she's not sure. He just can't be...
with Linda, because that'll make her look bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Veronica sits down next to Phil and...
basically starts flirting with him.
Yeah. Talking about how she likes the way he says her name and asks for his autograph.
And then she's like, and can you initial here and here and sign here again and date here? And he just goes along with it because she's like been flirting with him, trying to get like...
yeah.
And she's like, oh, would you look at that?
Out of all the papers I could just pick up.
Have you sign. This is an agreement that you won't sue us for us freezing you.
Yeah. And he's like, but Veronica, she's like, don't say my name. Get back in the lab.
Find Lim. Get back to work.
Yeah. So Phil comes back into the lab, disheartened because he's not an actual hero.
And Ted's there with Lim, and Ted's like, yeah, but I thought you deserved to be recognized as a hero. Like,
Yeah.
what you did was actually really brave. And Phil's like, oh, well, thanks. And Lim's like, I still can't work with you, so...
Yeah, they're still fighting about how Phil's kind of an idiot for being frozen.
And so Lim leaves, and Phil's like, after 10 years, how can he just leave me?
Yeah.
And Ted's like, well, when you chose to get frozen, you chose to leave him.
Like, just suddenly.
Can you imagine how that made him feel?
So Phil sets off to go get Lim, so he goes to the door. He's
But you missed Phil's best line in this episode.
Yeah, sorry.
How can I know so much about the bonds of chemicals, but so little about the bonds of friendship?
Yes.
So then he goes to chase after Lim, but Lim's waiting outside the doors.
Yeah, because he was sent to work with Richie and Fuzzle, the names of other scientists in this fucking company. Richie makes sense. Fuzzle. I hope Fuzzle is a fucking nickname. Not really. I want to keep watching this show and have someone legitimately be named Fuzzle.
And when Phil opens the door, Lim's like, you could have died!
Who would have been my lab partner then?
Richie and Fuzzle?
And then they go off about how they don't know anything about, let's use some sciencey terms here for growing meat.
And so they've decided that the issue with the meat earlier is that real cows move and do stuff, and thus build muscle fiber.
So they should do something to build the muscle fiber of the blob.
And we get a quick, what are they called?
Montage?
Yeah, a quick montage of them trying different things. They massage the
And just
meat.
doing research in general. I mentioned the research in general because there's this amusing part where they have a full-grown cow in the lab, and Phil is just leaning over with like a small hammer that you test reactions with on the human body, like hitting the kneecap and stuff. He's just tapping on the side of this cow with his head pressed against its side, like, okay, so this is what a cow sounds like.
Other parts of the montage include massaging the meat and putting the cowless beef in a paint can and shaking it in a paint mixer
Until it becomes liquid.
which doesn't really do what they were trying to do.
Yeah. Also staring intently at the meat cut into a thin slice.
Not their meat, but like actual steak.
meat.
Yeah.
And like looking at it with a light behind it, scrutinizing it like that.
Yeah. It ends with them sticking electrodes into the meat and just creating a pulse circuit that makes it throb.
And then as they're getting ready to leave, we see Phil put some of the material left over from the chairs from last episode on top of the meat like a blanket.
Because earlier in the episode, he tried to name the blob of meat.
He wanted to name it Blobby, like Bobby L.
And we got a little bit of backstory there that there was a carrot in the lab at some point.
That they named Chester.
And Phil had trouble eating the carrot later because he had named it.
Yeah, and he even says he still misses it. Which I just really want this carrot to have been...
Chester.
I want Chester to have been like a living carrot, like functional, animate, capable of moving around, somewhat sentient.
So we still stay in montage basically because they don't really give us more dialogue yet.
Yeah.
But we go back down to the testing room with Jerome, and Lim and Phil
are the ones administering the test this time.
And he sees the meat and basically runs off. He's like, nope, not eating the spare meat again.
And so they run after him. They manage to pin him against a wall and shove the meat in his face.
And he smiles,
Yes.
like a really bright smile. And then we cut to Ted and everybody at a table in a meeting, and they're all trying samples of the meat, and they're all like, yeah, this is good.
And
but
then
still
they're
no dialogue.
in like a massive auditorium on a stage, carting out a nice spread with the meat.
A platter with a cooked rump roast.
It just has normal garnishes around it. And then Victoria picks it up to hold it in front of her. They take a picture. And then Ted explains, the meat's really fucking expensive though, so...
$10,000 a pound still.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a thing anytime soon. And so Ted's talking about how he solved this problem, and he's good at solving problems. And we get him in the break rooms, putting creamer back in the creamer stations out of a brown shopping bag.
And then Linda shows up and she's like, what are you doing?
He's like, solving problems. I can't not solve problems.
She's like, I can't steal the creamer now. I'm stealing it from you. That doesn't solve my problem. What am I going to do now? So she's hitting on him, implying that, you know what you could do to help keep me sane?
Like she's like standing like...
And reduce my stress.
Right up against him and like running her hand down his stomach.
Yeah. A way to reduce my stress. That I won't have to steal. You don't have to only have one office affair. It's not like voting. You can hit more than one ballot.
He's like, I don't want to vote around.
Yeah.
And that's where the credits start rolling. Then we cut from that scene to her in the bathroom.
Yeah,
sitting in
because
a chair.
Ted does have a solution. He is a problem-solving guy.
Sitting in a chair on a stool reading a book, and she's just like waving her hand back and forth in front of the sensor.
In front of the towelmizer.
The sensor on the towelmizer, and there's just a feed of paper towel in front of her now.
Yeah. And that is the end of this episode.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts on Better Off Ted?
This episode was a lot less Rose in it. In case you don't remember,
Yeah.
Rose is Ted's daughter.
Yeah, I don't actually think it has any in it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Though this does have more of a like straight plot from the very beginning of the episode to the end.
Yeah, it does actually have a coherent plot. I still don't know if time makes sense because they have 5 days to.
Oh no, it doesn't.
Okay.
And they have 3 days. They have 72 hours.
No, they have 5 days.
Oh yeah, and then at the end they have 72 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they spend 2 days with Phil and
Yeah.
but Lim fighting.
It's weird in a time aspect. But what do you think about the show overall? Like,
I like the show. It's a little wonky, but like I said, it still feels like it's a joke every sentence, and it's enjoyable. I like it. I'll probably watch more of it. How about yourself?
I very much feel the same way. It's amazingly humorous, and I really do still think the majority of the work comes from the delivery of the actors.
Yeah. Although this episode has a few lines that are just legitimately funny.
Yes. The only actor I really recognize is the one that plays Veronica. She plays the Bluth sister in Arrested Development. George Michael's aunt, Michael's sister.
I knew I recognized her from somewhere.
Yeah, she plays the rich sister in the Bluth family.
Other than her, I did recognize Jerome. He plays the tall doctor that ends up joining Hank Med on Royal Pains, the neurologically atypical doctor. I can't remember his name.
Jerome, the taste tester. I already forgot who he was because he's not actually important.
Oh yeah, the taste. Yeah.
No, I recognize him as well. I was thinking of like main cast characters.
Oh well, I was just really excited to see the dude from Hank Med. I was like, I love this.
I think I recognize Linda, but I can't name you anyone off the top of my head for her actor or other character wise.
Yeah.
But despite knowing any of these actors or characters off the top of my head, I think they are all wonderfully great at what they're doing in this show at the very least.
I also think I recognize Phil's voice. I don't recognize him.
Yeah, his voice sounds almost like, I can't remember his name or character in the movie, but Lilo and Stitch, the skinny alien that's with...
Yeah, actually...
I don't remember names from Lilo and Stitch, but Phil sounds kind of like the skinny alien who's kind of manic and crazy.
Maybe. I honestly don't remember names.
Honestly, it doesn't matter. All the actors are great, and I would definitely continue to watch the show. In fact, probably once we finish recording this, I'm probably going to go watch episode 3 of the show.
Oh no, when we finish recording this, I'm going to go play some more Need for Speed.
You do you. I'm going to watch the 3rd episode of the show.
I'm going to watch the ad for the 3rd episode of the show and then go play Need for Speed.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me correct myself.
But overall, watch this show, I think is what we're saying, right?
Yes.
It's funny, it's humorous, and I think it's just a really easy show to watch. And then just go do something else. Like if you just want a brief bit of funny, you can come back to it. It doesn't have an overarching plot, at least not in the first 2 episodes.
That's 100% true.
Anyways, though, this has been Copilots. Thanks for sticking around with this, and thanks for flying with us, guys. If you want to, leave a review on iTunes, the thing we've been asking you to do recently, that would be greatly appreciated. We have had one.
Do we want to save that for the episode on the 12th?
That is for the 12th. We will save that for the 12th.
But the next 12th, we might have other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Do we just want to do that now?
No, because if...
Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up right now. We said we'd do this, so let's read out this review. Okay, we have one review, and it's from Fallopian Golem.
Also known as
a frequent flyer, if you will. And he titled his review, Why Watch Shows When These Two Suffer For You?
We do suffer.
And he says, if you don't have time to watch a ton of shows, let these crazy brothers do it for you. If you enjoy witty commentary, dry humor, and a loving and welcoming community, then this is the podcast for you. We do have a welcoming community. It's on our Discord, and if more people were active there, I'd be more active there.
It'd also be more welcoming, even though it's already welcoming, and be even more so because there'd be more people to welcome.
I love listening to these two go on about shows twice a month, and hearing about how their lives are going really makes me feel like I'm hanging with the bros, even when I can't because of COVID. Their energy is a great refresher in contrast to other podcasts. I highly recommend it. You hear that? We're highly recommended.
We have a high recommendation from someone. I don't we've only given a few shows high recommendations, so we have a high recommendation for our show.
Mainly System Mastery. If you don't know what System Mastery is, go listen to System Mastery. They're not paying me to say this.
We gave a high recommendation for Wayne.
Oh, you're talking about shows
I was talking about shows we've watched.
I was thinking other podcasts, and I was like, we've never done a shout out for a podcast.
Well, we've mentioned System Mastery.
Yeah, because
yeah. No. But I was referring to shows we've watched and then reviewed.
Because System Mastery is the only podcast that's currently ongoing that you and I both like and listen to.
I mean, other ones are ongoing. They're just on hiatus at the moment.
That's what I said. Ongoing right now. Currently making episodes right now.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Anyways, if you want to leave us a review on iTunes so that you can have your iTunes read out as well, regardless of what is in it, as long as there's not words that are highly offensive, we will read it, even if it isn't a 5-star. Fallopian Golem's review was a 5-star. Thank you, Fallopian.
Yeah, I mean, even if it has offensive words, some of them we might say, some of them we won't. Take the risk, take the gamble, put all the offensive words. It's fine. You're still leaving the review.
I'm also sure iTunes has a filter for that.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong.
Who knows?
Anyways,
I think you'd have to report the comment. I wouldn't.
anyways,
It could stay.
if you can, leave us a 5-star review or any review on iTunes. And if you want to get in contact with us directly, you
To ask
can
a question, to yell at us, whatever you feel like.
suggest shows.
That would be useful too.
I mean, we have a whole list now. Like I have a whole bunch of stuff. Some of which I can't actually find anywhere to watch because they came out in like 1990 and were around for 4 months and then disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, but we kind of want to find them because, my God, does it sound horrible.
Anyways, if you want to contact us with recommendations like that, you can reach out to us at our Gmail account at
copilotsreview@gmail.com
or on Twitter at copilotsreview or on our website
at copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
And our website happens to have the link for all of our social medias, our email, and even our Discord we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and
So-
I mean, if those aren't enough social medias for you, you could contact us via one of those and tell us what other social medias we should make. We probably won't, but you can tell us we should.
Or you could contact us via one of those social medias, ask for our address, and send us something like through snail mail. We're not going to give you our address. I was just suggesting ways you would contact us, but that's not going to happen.
I do like Snell.
That's not what snail mail is. Anyways, this has been Copilots Review.
Thank you for flying with us. Please fly again soon. Da 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 da!
Is that a John Cena?
It was.